Hey everybody, on this episode today we're going to take a look at a game that is on, I'd say, a lot of people's list as the greatest game of all time, and that is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This game by Nintendo was an action-adventure game that came out in 1992 and really expanded the world that they introduced in the previous two games on the NES. This game has a lot of vivid memories for me. This was a game, the summer that came out was my first year working a summer job. My family, like a lot from my area where I live, didn't have a lot of money. And so whenever I got my first paycheck and had my own money for the first time, it was really a new experience. And me and one of my older brothers, who was also working a job at that time, summer job, we decided to go halves and buy a Super Nintendo and some games. And the two games we bought separate from the system were F-Zero and Link to the Past. And we ended up playing this game quite a bit. Really, it was one of those games that we just really saw the leap from generations that we were really looking for. We had played the Genesis and Sonic the Hedgehog, and that is a fantastic game. But really, this was the first one we thought really was impressive to a whole new level and showed what the difference between 8-bit and 16-bit generations was. I would really say, in my opinion, we don't see a leap in graphics and gameplay from generation to generation these days, like PS4, from PS3, as we did back then. We really saw something new every time we got a new system. So today let's have a look at Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, see why it's such a classic, and see why it still holds up today. Thanks. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, designed by Shigeru Miyamoto of Donkey Kong and the Mario series, was a true evolution of everything accomplished in the NES Legend of Zelda. The game is heavily story-based and structured around exploration and finding your way through a series of themed dungeons. Each dungeon ends with a boss battle and some clever trick and design that allows it to be defeated. In each dungeon, a new item will be found that either proves needed to reach the dungeon's end, or more often is key to beating the dungeon's boss. And most items are needed in later dungeons as well, preventing you from completing them out of intended order. The game takes place once again in the Kingdom of Hyrule, but this time at an earlier point in time, thus making the game technically a prequel. At any time you can look at the overworld map and are free to explore in any direction you wish, but some of the areas may be off limits until you acquire a certain item. Much of the game will also be spent exploring the overworld map and finding small side quests which lead to pieces of heart which increase the life meter, or finding other items and upgrades that, while not always necessary to finish the game, make it much easier in the long run to do so. Plus, there's a great deal of satisfaction in finding everything, building Link to a truly formidable character. At the beginning of the game, and after a telepathic message from Princess Zelda, we see Link waking up to find his uncle, sword and shield in hand, heading out, telling Link nothing but to stay inside until he returns. Being the headstrong kid he is, though, Link grabs a lantern and heads out to follow. After a little exploration and being blocked by guards, Link finds a hidden entrance to the castle, and quickly finds his uncle, mortally wounded and unable to go on. From there, it's up to Link to save the princess. What follows from there is a story that repeats its themes throughout the Zelda series. The evil Ganon wants to conquer Hyrule and control the magical Triforce, and it's Link's destiny to stop him every time. Overall, A Link to the Past is a memorable work, not just for its story, but its gameplay, its art style, and its music. The gameplay is familiar to anyone who played the first game, but is smoother, and the Super NES controller allows it to be capable of so much more. Along with the sword attack and the use item button, we have the aforementioned map button, and once we have the speed boots, a dash button, which lets Link run with the sword extended to strike enemies in his way. The game's graphics were among the first to show what the 16-bit generation could do. Nintendo made use of talented artists who made Hyrule distinct from other fantasy worlds. It's a world still aware of its past and the magic that's everywhere, even if people don't interact with it. This is accomplished by a style that adds a fairy tale vibe along with the sword and sorcery backdrop. Along with the art, the sense of adventure is aided by the musical score of Koji Kondo. This was the first game I can remember being able to hear what sounded like instruments playing along to the action in a video game. Just listen to the intro song to see what I mean, and you'll see why this game influenced music for the series ever since. The game also introduced tropes that would become a part of Hyrule lore and would never be forgotten. For instance, while the first game had a flute, it was this game that incorporated the instrument as a major game element. Once you have the flute this time, you can use it to fast travel around the kingdom, saving a ton of travel time and allowing access to areas you couldn't get to before. The use of music in this way would even influence a later game in the series, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. And let's talk about that flute for a second. Now, it's obvious, if you look at it, that the design of this flute carried over into The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time whenever the game went, or the series went 3D. Now, with a little bit of research, I found out that the Japanese version of Link to the Past did refer to this as an ocarina. So it makes me wonder just a little bit if this wasn't meant to be the same item, the same flute or ocarina from game to game, at least meant at some point to be within the game's development. I couldn't find any reference that verified that, so I'm not 100% sure. If anybody has any information or if there's a story there, I would really love to hear about it, so please let me know. Another piece of Hyrule introduced here is in Kakariko Village, the Cuckoos. These chickens are the single toughest creature in game history. They can't die, hit them enough, and they get mad. They call their buddies and deliver a beating on you like nothing else in the game. And how mean are they really? This mean. I might incite a few Pokemon fans here, but really, the Cuckoos could either kill the Pokemon or just let them pass out of exhaustion trying to damage them. You disagree? Well, there's a comment section below the video. Moving on, and after exploring Hyrule, you defeat 3 dungeons, retrieve the Fabled Master Sword, a name also introduced in this game, and then go back to save Zelda again from the evil wizard Aghanim. The wizard has control of the castle, the royal army, and behind the scenes is a servant of Ganon. When you arrive and reach the tower atop the castle, you find you are too late. Aghanim makes Zelda disappear in front of you and attempts an escape. You quickly follow and have a battle with the wizard that seemingly has him struck down. But at the last second, he draws you into the Dark World, a mirror realm you only got a brief glimpse of earlier, and a mirror of Hyrule that was once the Golden Land, but now twisted by Ganon's will and the Triforce's magic. Here comes the surprise twist of the game. You now have to travel the Dark World to save 7 maidens by defeating 7 more dungeons. Go on to defeat Ganon's Tower, where you will meet variations of the previous 3 dungeon bosses, defeat Aghanim again in battle one final time, before finally facing Ganon himself and saving not just Hyrule, but bringing the Golden Land back to its former state. Like the light world of Hyrule, you'll explore, do battle, find items, and meet characters who give you story and information. You'll even jump back and forth between worlds to achieve your goals. At the end of the game, when you finally do confront Ganon in his pyramid, you are faced with a battle familiar to fans of the NES original, and includes new elements that will influence battles in games to come. Preparation can be the key to winning, along with learning the pattern to his attacks. And with victory comes an ending that for its time was more than fans had grown to expect. We see the hero take the Triforce and restore everything to where it belongs. We see people we met on the journey with loved ones, figures who died as a result of Ganon's evil brought back to life, and a kingdom at peace. And to finish it off, our hero returns to his life and lives happily ever after. At least until the game's sequel. For each game in this series, I'm trying to play through each one again, start to finish. And even though I could say that Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past is one of my favorite games, I honestly hadn't played this game probably for over a decade. And I'd forgot where certain items were, how to reach certain areas. So there was a lot of rediscovery in this playthrough. The satisfaction in beating a boss, especially the satisfaction of beating Ganon, is still there every time you play through it. And I can't recommend this game enough. Thankfully, there are multiple ways to play it now. But if you are a collector, I believe that this is an essential part of any Super Nintendo collection, and it's not the hardest card to find. So with that, this is The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I want to thank everyone for watching. Leave a comment, tell me about your Zelda experiences or what you thought of the video. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel for future videos. So with that, this is Solomon Grundy. Thanks for watching again. Have fun and play a game.